Smile, everyone. Hey everyone, welcome to today's session of the Yatri Stories. I am Sanskriti and I will be moderating this session on tourism and curated experiences. To give you some context, the Yatri Stories is a voluntary initiative run by a couple of JY Delhi NCR alums who want to bring to light the professional and personal stories of some amazing Yatris. So the Yatri story sessions are held every few weeks, focus on a particular theme where 5 to 6 panelists are invited whose professional or personal stories revolve around that theme. So we can learn from their experiences. Thank you so much for joining us in today's session. And today's session was organized by the Yatri Stories team. So I want to thank Astha, Aditya, Aru, Ishani, Pallavi, and Pulkit for making it happen. Before starting, I also want to go over some housekeeping rules. I will request everyone to please keep your microphone on mute. If you have any questions, please share them on the chat. And also, just so everyone knows, the session is being recorded. The recording will be shared shortly on the YouTube channel, where you can also watch the recordings of all the past Yatri Story sessions. Pulkit, we are starting with you first. With you and your very lovely background. So how are you doing today, Pulkit?
All great. What about you?
Doing well as well. Could we start by asking you to share a bit, just introduce yourself to everyone who's watching, like just share a bit more about your journey, professional and personal.
Surely. So I started as an entrepreneur in the year 2011, and it was all about freelance content writing. So those of you who know me personally as well know that I have got my marketing agency that runs on the side. And I started Anya Wellness as a startup in November 2019, which is a preventive healthcare discovery platform that we're building for specifically wellness tourism. But with COVID coming into picture, we had to, make some changes. We had to pivot and come out for our sustainability. So that's where we have incorporated online wellness and corporate wellness, which I'll be talking further as well. So that's more or less about me. I am a content strategist, finding bliss in natural healing.
Wow, that sounds really interesting. So you're simultaneously running two businesses right now.
Yeah.
One is the content marketing and second is the preventive healthcare, like you talked about.
Yes.
So I'm very curious to know, how did this transition happen? Like, how did you stumble upon the world of preventive healthcare from content marketing? That's two
So
very different, interesting and very different businesses.
that I totally agree. Both are very different. But yeah, again, if I talk about startup as a business model for Anya Wellness, also we take the route of content marketing as a medium to reach out to our customers. But yeah, the ideation or coming on to that particular point, I have been practicing Ayurveda or yoga from my childhood. I was diagnosed with migraine when I was like 4 years or 3 years old. I've been wearing spectacles since then. And my parents took me to every possible hospital in Delhi NCR at that time, finding a cure, because I used to miss out my classes, call out my parents, okay, sir dard ho raha hai, please no ghar leke chalo, I cannot attend school anymore. So tired by that, they took me to all the doctors across Delhi NCR, and then finally we were able to find a relief with an Ayurvedic person. So we used to call her Ammaji, and that's where she started with tail neti. So she started putting drops of gai ka ghee, cows that ghee. I'm skipping the term for that right now. And so that really gave me relief in my nasal. In the nasal cavity, she used to put 3 drops each in both the nasal cavities, and that started giving me relief. And after that, I've been following this for my whole life. Like right now as well, every day before I get up or before I go to sleep, I put 2 drops of oil. So my co-founder, Dr. Siog, he has created a oil called nasal drops. So that also helps me now focus, get relief from migraine. Though it was something related to help build immunity for COVID, but yeah, it helps in sinus as well as migraine issues. So I'm religiously using that. And touch wood, it's been over 6 months I've had a migraine episode.
Wow, that's amazing. So like this comes from your personal story and combining that with something that you already have expertise in, which is content marketing.
Yes.
Right. So if I also may ask, what drives you to wear so many hats, right? Like I know a bit more about your background, like ever from your college days, you've started so many different companies. So I just like what drives you to start all these ventures and also like do really well at them?
So something that has been common across all the ventures was the content bit of it. Like if I talk about my very first venture, which was about, it was an inspiration from another startup that already existed. We just improvised it a bit and started out. Again, content was there, marketing was there. These two things aspects have been really common for me. So again, I had failed at 4 or 5 ventures before I really decided, okay, I have to do Edgy Scribblers, I have to do Anya Wellness. And that realization came to me when I was a Yatri in 2014. So persistence was something that was missing in my approach as as an entrepreneur. कुछ भी problem आती थी, I used to just give up. Like for the very first venture, if I talk about the photocopy one I was talking about, where we were giving free photocopies to students, it was an inspiration from another venture, Mr. Harsh Narang. He started the actual thing, but yeah, we improvised it during my college days, and we started. One of my friends, he ditched me. He promised something, and then the whole thing, just came falling down. And with that, I was like, yeah, again a problem, and I left that over there. The next one was about, I was working with my sister to distribute gifts and customize chocolates, customize gifts and everything. We went around all the colleges in Delhi NCR. We even kept getting orders. This was a venture out of the 4 failures which closed on a positive note. It was a profitable venture where we closed it in terms of, if I talk about revenue or money. But yeah, this was closed because my sister got married. There was nobody to bake chocolates in the back end or support me with the final execution. Instead of figuring that out, I said, okay, let's close it now. Let's move on to the next one. So similarly, something or the other, if any challenge came up, I used to give up. But yeah, after going on Yatra and with the 2-3 years of break in between, I decided, okay, next whatever I'm going to be doing, I'm going to be persistent with that. And that's what really gives me the power. That's what gives me, okay, I know there have been lows as well, and with pandemic coming to picture, the lows just took another whole a level of depth to come into picture. But what I realized was the time will pass. We have seen highs as well. We have had months where we had worked for brands like Coca-Cola as well, and supporting in one or the other form. And there have been lows when we had no client as well for 2 months continuously. So things will pass, but yes, you as an entrepreneur have to stay persistent, and you have to be focused on the bigger picture out there. What's your end goal, where you want to reach?
Right, that sounds very difficult and also makes a lot of sense. So you touched upon like COVID being a big low specifically for people in the tourism space. So we would love to hear a bit more about that. Like what has your journey been like in the past 1.5 years, and what thoughts do you have on building resilience in this space?
So if I move a little back, the journey for Anya Wellness started actually in June 2017. We were doing a lot of groundwork and a lot of things. And finally, around 2019, we were able to find a sweet spot. Okay, this is what going to work. That was wellness tourism. We finally zeroed in. We were working in on this particular space of tourism. And November 2019, we got our incorporation certificate. So that's where we started. Bank accounts were opened. All those things came into pictures. Pieces were falling in place. Just to realize that 5 months later, everything was just going to come crumbling down. We had a very first retreat planned for 26th, 27th, and 28th March. If I remember the dates correctly, it was the last weekend of
2020.
March.
Oh no.
And it was a women's retreat that we were planning. It was around women empowerment. We had called in Bollywood celebrities as well for it. Everything was booked. We had received around 5 to 6 bookings as well by that time, and we were planning to go forward, and other bookings were in the funnel. We were about to close everything, and 22nd March, you hear our beloved Prime Minister coming on television and announcing the national lockdown. We all were like shocked, awestruck, what's gonna happen now? We were like not able to find what to do. We had to obviously refund the amount that came into our accounts and all those things. We had to send out sorry notes, but that was not it, because we were prepared for tourism. We had other retreats lined up, and we were lost now because we thought, okay, it's going to be 2 weeks event or something like that. I was fearful of COVID, to be honest, because one day while driving to office in February, I hear this plea of a person coming on radio and asking for help, support in donations for one of his sisters in China suffering from COVID. And I was like, dude, what happens if it's going to come to India?
Hmm.
And the nightmare really did just come true in March, and we all are here. The rest is history. You all know what's happened. So April, May, June, I guess. Yeah, June was the time when we were able to get back on our feet. We decided, okay, tourism band hua hai, but wellness is the thing that's required right now. We were amongst the four fronts. Like at that time, we did some certain webinars, but we never thought that we will be taking the online route for wellness. Our incubation manager came to us and asked, hey, we have these startup founders who are all anxious कि क्या करना चाहिए अब COVID आ गया है, financial struggles हैं, a lot of struggles were coming in because for most of them it was all about going on field, office जाके काम करना है, or their whole business model was around that. So we were asked to organize a webinar for 500 startup founders on adversity management. So that's where we asked one of our life coach to come into picture and organize that. So that was one of the very first webinar. We did it around, I guess, 29th of March or something on that date. But yeah, after that, we had no idea what to do. Karna kya hai, we were clueless. And that's where around May end, we thought online yoga classes start karte hain. Or we did see something happening in the US and other places. We thought, okay, let's start from there. And that was the turning point for us. We started off with online yoga classes, online diet consultations, and online Ayurveda consultations as well. We were, sending out couriers as medicines. So we had a lot of people coming into picture, taking online classes with us, be it yoga, Ayurveda, or naturopathy. And then slowly and steadily, as things started to, get relaxed a bit, unlock started happening. We did facilitate 3 or 4 retreat packages in Goa or in, other areas, Nasik and Lonavala. But majorly it was about corporate wellness that came into picture, corporate wellness and online wellness that really helped us. So we brought in wellness brands as well. We had to pivot. We had to find our, sustainability. So that's where we, instead of just tying up with wellness centers, Ayurveda, naturopathy, yoga, mind, mental health, and diet, we also now brought in brands who were dealing with natural products, be it cosmetics, be it beverages, any industry. If you're dealing in natural products, that's either being derived from nature or working towards conservation of environment, we were bringing them on board. And that's where we helped a few corporates give gifts during Diwali with these brands. So we facilitate that whole journey. So online wellness and corporate wellness were our go-to, survival mode at that point to recover from COVID.
Right. And I like the way you make it sounds easy, but I know obviously that's not the case, right? To come up with a new business model and to implement it in such a short period of time is not easy. Especially like I know, if I understand correctly, like you had e-commerce in the plan for Anya Wellness anyway, but a few years down the line. But you had to sort of reschedule things to respond to the current situation. So we would also love to know a bit more about what that was like to, sort of like as an entrepreneur, just replan everything that you had planned for and execute that in so much uncertainty of what was coming.
So one of the biggest challenge or one of the major tasks I had to manage at that time was our website was made for wellness tourism. The whole user journey, though a new version is out right now, another 15 days you will see a whole new website. Right now we have got a new static page, introduction pages launched. But before that, if anybody visited our website, it was made for wellness tourism. Now with online wellness and corporate wellness coming into picture, we didn't have any technical support in the backend. Just to give an instance, we had 5 batches running simultaneously, starting at 5:30 a.m. in the morning and ending at 10:30 a.m. I was right there managing all the Zoom classes. I was entering the trainer from one end, entering all the participants. Even if individual session was being taken, I was sitting right on front of my laptop, waking up at 5 a.m. in the morning, setting up the screen and all those things, giving calls to our trainers, hey, if they are ready or not, koi problem to nahi hai, checking all that, checking with the participants. I did this for 3 or 4 months consecutively every day and doing it manually. Although aap koi training nahi de rahe ho, but you had to sit just on the screen idle. That was like, okay, what I'm doing. Then slowly and steadily, I evolved onto that as well, where I started using my mobile. I like, okay, mobile mein Zoom hai, what I can do. So where I was missing on my own wellness regime, I used to just align my wellness regime around that time when I was not required to be doing anything on Zoom. I used to start Zoom, make my trainer the host, and enter the participants, and then move out. I used to complete my exercise, whatever was the yoga class or anything, come back in 30-40 minutes, because 45 minutes was the duration of our sessions that used to be taken online, and then manage it again. So that was the journey. That was the major struggle we faced. And again, when we were even marketing our products, running Facebook ads and everything, we didn't have the support of technology. So we had to, instead of doing a complete user journey for a user through website, we did lead generation campaigns and then making 20 calls, 40 calls every day to reach out to customers. So that was those were the things that came into picture. And now just to bridge these gaps is what the new version is going to be helping with us, the new website that's coming in.
Wow, that sounds really intense, and it's so inspiring to see how you made the most of what's happening, and despite all the difficult times, still managed to create something so amazing for Anya. And I also wanted to ask you, of course, like COVID has shown us how unpredictable everything is, but still, based on your experience in this space, are there any trends that you see coming, or that you see shaping the future of the tourism industry?
So majorly, as we are moving forward right now, again, as we are wellness tourism focused, so it's going to be more about an objective. Earlier, people just used to go for leisure. वो अभी भी चलेगा, that's going to still be there. But now you will see either people moving in out in communities or for a very specific purpose. So we have spiritual tourism coming up. We have got vocations coming in. So even now corporates are sending out their senior executives or workforce to work from beautiful locations. We have got our vocation models in Goa. We have got something in Lonavala. We have got in Himachal, Assam, towards south as well. Name the place, and we have got a vocation model working out from there. Now, another thing that's going to be there, it's more about experiences that's going to be there. So experiential travel is going to come into picture more rather than just going to Manali or going to Shimla. It's not going to be the mainstream. The mainstream is going to be more around experience. And objective is always going to be there. It's not just going to be travel for leisure.
Right. So like travel with an objective is coming into play more.
Yeah.
The old versions of traveling.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. Thank you so much, Pulkit, for sharing your thoughts. And you talked about vocation. We'll be hearing from Surya soon, who's, I think, someone who embodies the concept of, working while vacationing. But before that, let's quickly hear. So Ashish could not join us, unfortunately, today because of some work issues. But he's very kindly shared his story through a video with us. And let's quickly watch that video to learn more about Ashish.
Hi everyone, I am Ashish Agrawal. I have been born and brought up in Agra. After my basic schooling in Agra, I graduated in computer science and engineering from Indian School of Mines in Dhanbad in 2013. Since my early graduation days, I had interest in social and entrepreneurial work because I have always been born and brought up in a family of businessmen. All my family and everyone near and dear to me have been in business. So to pursue my interests, I worked in a lot of NGOs in college, namely Kartavya and Fast Forward India, and helped them stand on their feet by starting social entrepreneurial ventures under the organization umbrella. Right after graduation, I joined family business, and it was mostly into building material supplies. So I started a low-cost row housing business under the family business only. And after that, also I started other ventures also, which mostly included an e-commerce store exclusively for automobile accessories. And then out of passion, I landed in hospitality industry. Always very interested in hosting people. It's out of passion. I always loved hosting people since early college days. I have, and to add to it, I have been traveling a lot, attending a lot of social and entrepreneurial conferences all across the world. I have almost traveled to more than 32 countries, attending such conferences, meeting people, hosting them, and talking to them about social and entrepreneurial ventures. So it became my passion that I love to host people. So and I had to do something entrepreneurial. I was never interested in doing a job. So the passion mixed with entrepreneurial spirit, and it landed me into hospitality industry. We are opening experiential property. So one is yoga stay in Varanasi. Other two are pure bed and breakfast stays in Agra and Varanasi, and other is a backpacker hostel in Agra. I have a partner who is also my college junior from Indian School of Mines, Dhanbad. So both of us first started a very, very small backpackers hostel in Varanasi. Though before that, we were also doing something in hospitality. We started rickshaw tours in Varanasi. So all the rickshaw pullers were given basic guide training in English of Varanasi. And the rickshaws were designed in a Maharaja style. And all the tourists who used to come to Varanasi, we would offer them rickshaw tour of Varanasi. So after that, to connect with it, we started a small backpacker hostel in Varanasi because Varanasi is like a very popular touristy city. So everyone wants to come to Varanasi. And then our journey started from there. After Varanasi, we started a backpacker hostel in Agra, another boutique bed and breakfast stay in Agra, then another bed and breakfast in Varanasi, and then another yoga stay in Varanasi. Though right now we are badly hit by COVID, but we are fully into it. We have shut down our property in Agra because of COVID, but we will start it again soon. And we are really looking forward for an exciting future. And my other interests include traveling, share trading, and construction space. So I'll be more than happy to talk to anyone about traveling, hospitality industry, construction space, and share trading. Thank you.
Wow, that was really interesting. Honestly, if any of you watching have any questions for Ashish, please do reach out to him. We'll be sharing the contact details of all speakers very shortly. Ashish has a brilliant story, very inspiring. He has so much to share about various different things that he mentioned, and also like he's just experienced some amazing things all over the world. So he's got tips for everybody. So do reach out to him if you have any questions. And moving on to the next panelist, could we hear, I think let's go on to Rahul next. Rahul, could we hear your story next, please?
Yeah, hi,
Hi.
thank you. So, thank you for inviting me in this panel, and it has been an honor for me to be here. And listening to all the panelists was great. So, like about myself, journey has been a very interesting one. Earlier, I was like. It's a long story. I will cut it short. So earlier, I was a software developer. If you go back 2 years back, I had no idea that I would be doing this thing today, and I would be into a sector of tourism and all. So I was 3 years back. I was a software engineer, like a engineering student, like focused about the corporate and all those things. And then I had worked in a corporate for 1.5 year as a software engineer. At that time, I started traveling, and being I was a native of Ranikhet. It's a very small hill station in Uttarakhand. So born and brought up there, so I used to see the travelers coming all the time. It's a big tourist destination, and I have learned a lot from the tourists. And we used to see the fancy dress and all those things from the the cars coming from Delhi, Punjab, Haryana, and these people, like all those things. So that was quite fascinating for us. And when I grew up, I saw that how that has impacted the beauty which was 10 years back in that place. And after that, after the 10 years, I've seen that impact. I've grown with that. And in the Nainital, I had been to Nainital also. So the overcrowding and all those things. So I have grown with all those impacts of that place. So when I grew up and when I came to Delhi and doing my job and I started traveling, so I was a traveler, and at that time I started realizing like how the tourist is impacting all these places. And then the point was at certain point, I still remember that it was in 2019, early 2019, that is the March of 2019. I was on the trek of this Hemkund Sahib and Valley of Flowers. There I realized that how much the pollution and the plastic waste is there in all these places. And at that time, that struck me like, oh, like being a native of this place, Uttarakhand, like what I am doing for it, like what I have done, like I have studied a lot and all these things. So what can I do? So that has disturbed me, and that was a turning point over there. Like, okay, I should do something, but I don't know what I have to do. So after that, like with that quest, and I came back. I was quite restless in the job after that, and then I went to some course at Ranchi, and there I met JY Yatri, uh, 2013 JY Yatri. So I met him and we talked a bit, and he told like, okay, he was a traveler, I was a traveler, so he said like, let's do something and let reshape the tourism and something. So we started Artha Ally, like just like temporary project, like just an experiment, and it went well. So we did our first trip in Jibi in August 2019, and we got a good response from the people. So we thought, okay, let's move it forward. But at that time I was also clueless because the business was not making money. It was just a project, right? So then I came to Jagriti Yatra, and in Jagriti Yatra in 2019, I just saw that there is a huge number of people like who have done at great things, and that has given me a confidence. And after that, just coming out from the Jagriti Yatra, after 15 days, I put my resignation at my job, and I was like, okay, let's go full time. And Surya know that I had informed him when I put the resignation, bro, like now I'm full time to this. And he was like, oh, that's great and all. And after 15 days on 20th March, the lockdown started. So that was the thing. But yes, the Jagriti network was still a strong community. Like, I'm really thankful to that. In those difficult time also, the idea was still there, and we started. Then I came to know about someone from the JY referred about the Sonam Wangchuk Hyal Institute, and then I did my course on sustainable tourism from Hyal. And then like on October, I think so, the lockdown just came. There was some relaxation started, and since December we have started again. And December to March we again did it, and this year March again it was a lockdown. So we are quite hopeful, and the community is continuously supporting. Like I get the maximum references from the Jagriti, and so JY is like something that is a turning point for me. Like that has transformed me from software developer to entrepreneur now. So that is a short story about the entire transformation. Yeah.
That's honestly such a wild, roller coaster of a ride, and so beautiful that it comes back to a full circle of you going back to your community and trying to make a difference there. So, thank you firstly for talking about how JY impacted your journey. I think that's always beautiful to hear. And you also talked about like you doing this out of like a sense of responsibility for the community that you were raised in, and also like about your responsible tourism fellowship in Ladakh. So I wanted to ask, like, what does responsible tourism mean to you? How do you draw the line between exploitation and development of local communities?
So responsible tourism basically is a very big umbrella, if I say, right? So different people have the different opinion about the responsible tourism. Some call it a eco-tourism, some sustainable tourism. So there are a lot many things. And what I do is, from my perspective, from that child which has seen the tourism impacting his place, and that has deteriorated its natural resources, all those things, how that has impacted, and how that has impacted the mindset. So in that way I see it. Basically my belief about tourism, like, actually when I started I didn't know that it is called responsible tourism. Yeah. So because when you come into a business, then you have to, like, okay, I'm doing this, then what it is called, like what you have to put in the posters. Then we researched, and then we go point like, okay, this is called responsible tourism. So basically my way of responsible tourism is the tourism is impacting a place in three ways, right? Environmentally, as well as economically and mentally. So environmentally, we all know, like, the people are coming with more vehicles, and at a place like Ladakh, or when a tourist come to Shimla or Ladakh or Ranikhet or Nainital, whatever, if a local person is using water, are like a local person use 75 liters of water in a week, let's say, right? But a person who comes from outside, they use 75 liters a day, right? So that is creating a huge mess. And personally, I had been from Raniket, and in summers, like we have been to that there is a 2 kilometers away, or 3 kilometers away, there was a natural spring from where we have to bring the water, right? And now it is also dead, so in last 5 to 10 years. So these are the issues. And as well as like mentally, when I see when we see like when we see a person coming from outside, they are having with a fancy clothes, expensive goggles, and expensive bag. A child, think from the perspective of a child who is just looking from that place, right? And he's looking at you in a way that, okay, this guy has been so good, and all those things, he get fascinated, he want to be like you, right? He tries to copy whatever you are doing, right? So but we don't understand, like, the person who is so fancy looking, fanciful from outside, he is having a some not a good story behind, right? They must be seeking for peace or something. That's what I realized when I came to corporate, right? We all are seeking for something, that's why we are going to mountain. So when we bring these two, this child and as well as this guy together, they started talking, then they understand that, then they get the exposure what the world is actually like. So bringing these communities as well as the travelers together, that is our aim, to like that these guys don't get distracted, because I have seen that the culture is deteriorating a lot. So it has been in Uttarakhand, if you'll see, the culture is still in Himachal and Ladakh, that is preserved because a lot many people have taken the responsibility. But in Uttarakhand, it has deteriorated a lot in the last. We don't see anything, like people are copying just a culture from the cities, as well as economically, like we all know, like keeping all these things in perspective, and flora and fauna of that place. So seasonality also comes into the part. It's not about the community, like animals, these zones are very eco-sensitive. So at what time the tourism should be, like there should be some gap in between, at least like 2 to 3 months, when there is a mating season of the animals of that place. But nowadays I see that the tourism companies, the competition is so much that people don't are not looking at it. They are like, okay, sending the buses like 50 to 20 people together, like companies are doing, like tour operator, and this is the responsibility of the tour operator. Actually, they have to understand, they have
Of an audience do you think there is for initiatives like this? Like, is this still is this still like offbeat traveling, responsible traveling? Is it still offbeat, reserved for niche audiences? Or do you think there is scalability to this kind of traveling?
actually, what I see is, like, coming to this business, I still think that is quite a new thing in the country like India. Like this type of businesses have not been explored. The earlier, which the tour operation or the agency type of business was there, but yeah, guided tours have been introduced, and are coming into the picture in last 4 or 5 years a lot. So when I say this, that the people are innocent, the tourist is innocent, right? So people actually don't know. So there is a, this is the selfie tourism, I call it, or there is a FOMO. I don't know what it is. It's a culture of like a social, to show a social, uh, social pressure, or the peer pressure, I will call, that people are traveling. They don't have any intention. When you get into a job, you get your first job, you want to go to Kasol. I don't know, you don't know why you want to go to Kasol, right, or Manali, but you want to go because your group is going. So they don't know what actually. And if you see that there are a lot of people who don't have a good experience over there, right? So but the tour operator, if a tour operator, like we as a tour operator, what we do, I have said a no to lot many people. Like we get response in the earlier phase. I have got responses like okay, we don't want this type of tourism, right? We don't want to go and clean your places, all those things. If there is booze or a party, then tell us, like, else we won't be there. So that was quite disheartening at that time. But then I realized that there's a huge audience. The problem with us is the marketing. So we are not uh, able to reach that, exact audience who are interested in such things. And those people are thinking, and they don't know that such things exist. There are a lot many people I met on the way, and when they see us like doing all these activities, they come to us, they approach us, and they ask, uh, what is this? We don't know, we are hearing about your company for the first time, and we want to be with you for the next time. So this is like organic reach is there. But if like these panel things happens, and lot many people share all these things in their network, then we can grow. And as a company, we don't need more than 500 to 600 people to build a community. And once that is built, a business can sustain, right? So it can scale. Then we can go to different, like currently we are focusing on Himachal as well as Uttarakhand, on the hilly part only. So then we can grow. So it's a scalable business. But yeah, the advertisement is the biggest issue right now.
That's very interesting. So you're saying that the audience exists. The companies just need to figure out how to reach them, how to tap into them, and how to tell them that you exist, basically. So you think that's where the gap is, right? In reaching the correct people.
Right.
That's very interesting. Thank you so much, Rahul. Honestly, like, I think talking to you has at least left me inspired, and definitely like I know that next time that I travel, I will question a lot more, and I will think about my impact on the local communities a lot more. So thank you so much for sharing your story. We'll get back to you shortly with some questions. I think there's some audience questions for you as well, so we will get back to you shortly for that. Thank you so much, Rahul. And now we will let's move on to Surya. Hi, Surya.
Hey Shani.
Hi.
Hi. Yes. Am I
How are you?
visible and am I audible?
Yes. We can
Perfect. Perfect.
hear you.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm doing good. Thank you. How are you?
Good as well. Thank you. So happy to have you here. I think your story, I think I'm just so inspired by all the stories on this panel, honestly. Like, your story is also so wild and a roller coaster again. So I think I'll start by requesting you to talk a bit more about yourself, and just personally and professionally both, and tell us what you do and how you got there.
Sure thing. Firstly, like it feels so good to see so many known faces on the call and the panel itself. So I'll try to keep this conversation as professional as possible, right? So yeah, so starting off, right? So I'm from this very small, tiny city slash town called Guntur, which is in Andhra, and like I've studied like I've moved to Vellore VIT for my grad, and from there on like I've started working, right? So I've started working full time with Godrej Interior, right? So I have two parallel paths which were running. One is the professional side of it, and the other one is for the personal growth, right? So like starting off with the travel part, right? So I've started off I've done my first backpacking trip when I was 17 years old, and I picked up photography within the college, right? VIT I started doing mobile photography, and I've realized I have an eye for patterns, for reflections, for sequences, for all these different kind of elements of the nature, which I could probably document in a better way than a lot of other people. And so that kind of motivated me to capture more and try to show the different perspective of this, the same elements which everyone else sees, right? So that's how I started photography, and from there I've actually picked up traveling, and slowly, like, I've started, like every weekend I used to travel from my college for all the different projects which I used to do. And so that's how my photography journey has started. And slowly, even so, I've moved to GB for a 15-day, around 17-day residential program, right? So it has been started by Rahul. Uh, so not this Rahul, so there are so many Rahuls in our yatra, right? And there are two Rahuls. One is Rahul Kopla and the other one is Rahul Bharadwaj, who are 2016 yatris, I believe. So these guys have, who also have met in yatra, have moved to GB, and then they have started a mud house hostels, have started backpacking hostels called mud house. Right, so they have also, wanted to kind of replicate the yatra and wanted to do something very similar, like a fellowship of sorts in GB, right? It's a, tiny village in Tirthan Valley, and there I went there to build mud house, right? So they have invited 15 artists from, different domains of art, and we were kept in a low-key forest of sorts, where we have to, build a mud house in 15 days, right? So that's how I have got introduced about yatra in the first place. And from there on, like, I got very enthused about what happens in the yatra and the yatra as a whole, as a concept. And then I, kind of applied for 2018 yatra. I was yatra in 2018, and from there on, I've started, from there on, I've done, one, the yatra part, which is the social entrepreneurship part, and the other part is my full-time job part. Like, I work in the marketing and the strategy for with various brands. So and the traveling is also a part of it, right? So there are a couple of things I'll just try to clear it out as we go forward.
Wow, that's amazing. And that's again you wearing so many different hats, right?
Yeah.
And I feel like so many stories you mentioned so casually about yourself, but I know in reality, like, there's a lot of hustle that went behind them. So, like, you just mentioned that you picked up photography in college, but I know that, like, the like acquiring that first set of customers, I know you had a very innovative and unique way of doing that, like the Falcon. So we would love to hear a bit more about that, especially because I feel like tourism and curated experiences is such a trust driven industry, right? And in today's digital world, it's really driven by customer reviews. So how do you, like, your journey we would love to hear, and also if you have any tips on how do you go about acquiring that first set of customers when you're starting something new in this space.
Right, sure. Yeah, I remember a conversation regarding that. Yes. So, right. So essentially, when I started photography, right. So I started off with, like, there was also a very intense story which has happened, like, which has kind of made me a photographer, right. It's all about a small, water droplet, which kind of changed my whole, game for photography, right. So that's how I kind of started off photography. And thereon, since I don't have a camera, neither I could ask my parents to get me one. I started borrowing my senior's camera and then started clicking, so, like, that's how it is, right? So people who have resources don't really know how to, kind of use it, vis-a-vis people who have a lot of interest versus they don't have a lot of resources, are craving for it, right? So a lot of my seniors who has this massive cameras, DSLRs, mirrorless, all of these, right? But they don't, like, they click all of their, photographs in auto, right? So when I've done a deal with them, you let me use your, camera for probably like a couple of hours a day, and I'll click you some brilliant pictures for your FBTPs and all of it, right? So that's how it started. And when I had this idea of, starting off a brand of myself, of my photography as a skill, right? So I came out with something called Falcon Photography. And the way how I, kind of planned. So in retrospect, in case if I see, I feel I have been a marketeer all of my life, right? So the way how I've started this was, so I've, I've kind of arranged a drive, like a photo shoot drive for all the college student, like all of my friends essentially, and I've kind of publicized. So for a weekend, just for a weekend, for Saturday and Sunday, I've given slots. So one slot is for around 7 people, 7 of y'all who could come and get your FB pictures clicked. So at that point in time, especially in the college, close knit community. So if someone kind of puts up a very good looking DP, they would get amazing likes, and so it's like the status symbol, right? So I kind of realized that, and I knew I could kind of fill that gap, and I have arranged this like a slot level. So I've done close to 50 shoots in 2 days, 50 shoots. And so like I used to have a logo called Falcon Photography. So it's like a stamp, a red stamp of Falcon, and then so this logo of mine. So what I've said was what I've said was like all of y'all come. I've clicked pictures for them, and I've given them a timing around Friday around 9 p.m. is what I've mentioned. And Friday 9 p.m. each and every one of y'all would be uploading the picture, keeping it as your DP, tagging with which has the logo, which has my logo, plus tagging me, one, and two, the Falcon Photography as a page. Right. So in just that one night, so when everyone has around, imagine like 50 people from different branches, different courses have uploaded a new DP, which is like somewhat like very very you know like good looking of sorts, right? And yeah, so that's how within like overnight like everyone was talking about Falcon Photography, right? And for so that was again like that was how I've started. Like after this, then I've started getting shoots, right? So paid shoots, though I am not inclined towards the model photography of sorts. But at that point in time, I was just building my portfolio, I was just trying to understand and all of it, right? And coming to your second question, how does someone start and build their first set of customers, right? So in be it whatever the field, right? So people could trust, number one is because of how well you do the things which are already a part of, right? So in case you're a marketeer, how good you as a marketeer, number one. And number two is what is the kind of potential which you've got in this particular domain. Imagine if you're coming for a video, probably if you want to become a cinematographer, right? So there are few friends of mine who are working in few of the best wedding photography companies in India currently. And the way how he had entered into that like that domain was he had shot one wedding and a couple of videos of rain, right? So it's just raining, and he had captured that in a very uh, brilliant way, right? So starting from the drops to all the different elements which are going. So there's a cat running, so with because of the wind the trees are moving, so all of these different elements were captured. And he told a brilliant story out of just a small event called rain, right? So that way he kind of had readied his portfolio, which he could pitch it to the people whom he want to approach, right? So for you to have kind of source your first set of customers, you should be having a portfolio, be it whatever, right? You should be having working on your portfolio and kind of put it out there. Like don't expect anything ki ye dekh ke mere ko punch, I'll be getting leads to kind of convert them. So don't expect that. Just put it out. If people like, or if people receive it well and good. If not, where you have gone wrong, and you just have to kind of correct it and then again put it out. Simple.
That's very interesting. I think both the parts of the question, right? So first with Falcon, I think you went viral before most of us even knew what the word meant. So that is very cool. And I get what you mean for the second part, that like show, don't tell. So instead of just telling that, oh, we can do this, if you have a portfolio, it's actually more demonstrated work, and people are not taking that much of a gamble on you. So it's a good place to start from. So yeah, that's very, very interesting. Thank you so much for sharing that. And I also like, you've been talking about so many different things that you do, right? So like your photography and your blogging, and also like your full-time job, like this is all on top of your full-time job, which is like strategy and marketing for lots of different companies. So how do you balance all of these different hats that you wear, and while at the same time, like, I'm bringing something up that I know about you, is that you still stay true to your, like, even while blogging, it's not about creating experiences just for the sake of blogging. Like, for you, experiencing is the most important thing, and blogging is something secondary, like, which just comes as part of experiencing things, but that's not the primary objective. So you've been balancing multiple things while still staying true to what got you into traveling in the first place, which is your love for experiences. So how have you managed to do that? Because, like, even when I think about it, it sounds so complex, right? Like, so many different moving parts. How have you managed to balance all of them so efficiently while still staying true to yourself?
Sure, sure. Yeah, I guess, I mean, this is a very, I don't know, I feel I've done a lot of, mental work to kind of frame this answer for myself. And then, when I've understood, looking back, there's so many things, as you mentioned, right? So the only reason why I haven't picked up photography full time. So even right now I have a full time job. Since the past 4 years, I've been working full time for different companies, first for Godrej, then for Ola, and now for ShareChat. So all this while I've been working, right? So what? So the reason why I did not pick up photography for full time is again, something that again have kind of framed my life, is a sunset in sorry, a sunrise in Kanyakumari, right? So that's again a very intense a kind of experience. The way how I've started photography is just because of, like a tiny droplet have, kind of changed my perspective and got me into photography. In the same way, a similar experience had got me out of the photography, right? Photography, when I say, got me out of the photography professionally, right? So why I say that is because I've learned, you know for you to kind of capture the moment as well as also document your experiences is very tough, right? So number one, I also keep saying this, your passion and your profession should be different, right? So I know a lot of people have a very varied opinion on this, and like, at least for me so far, what I've learned is this, right? So your passion. So there's this saying which I've heard, and it feels very relevant for me. Like, it says, your passion will loses its passion when it starts earning money for you, right? So when I was working with Farhan Akhtar, Pratik Ward, so especially in the music industry, in the concert photography, right? So at that point in time, what I've realized was, ki, okay, this is paying me, right? So this is paying me well, good, right? Plus I'm also getting to do something what I love, right? But the way how I do it, what are all the different elements, emotionally, physically, like all the different cells of me a- are equally happy doing it or not, is what I've analyzed, and the answer was no, right? Because a lot of your creativity should, creative self or creative aspects should be compromised because of the brand's need, right? So in case if they need a promo or like a video in certain way, they just need it in certain way because it's all very structured. So there's no space for your creative exploration until unless you be on the very top of the game, right? So when I meant game, it's the hierarchy, right? So when until unless you're there, so like you're, no one actually cares about your creativity, trust me on this. At least that's what I've seen, right? So that's why I've realized you have to keep both of these things differently. And so the founding thought was from Kanyakumari sunset, and from there I moved on to photography, to actually traveling and documenting stuff, right? So whatever, so I do majorly GoPro right now, and GoPro is for me, like for me to document my experiences and not to kind of showcase it out there, right? To create professional, well produced videos, right? So now wherever I do, wherever I go, like whatever I do it for myself in terms of the traveling part, because I'm not depending upon my photography slash cinematography projects for me to earn my bread and butter, right? So that is being taken care by the other financial commitments. But this one is what something which I'm doing for me. So that's how I try to kind of divide it in terms. So that's how I try to divide it, and probably experience as much as I can while I do it, and also document it with the help of few tools like GoPro, especially. Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing that. That's very, very interesting, that how you've drawn the lines for yourself, and how staying within those lines have worked for you. So thank you for sharing that. I would like to ask a few questions to both you, Surya and Rahul, together. If so, Rahul, could you turn your video on as well, please? Thank you. Thank you. So I wanted to, I think it was amazing hearing both of your stories, and you told us about, all the different ups and downs that you've had. So I wanted to ask, how have you leveraged data and technology while growing in this space? And or do you have any thoughts on how data and technology can be better leveraged in this space?
I think Surya can go first.
Right, sure. I was on mute, or else I would have told Rahul would have, Rahul would go first. But yeah, right. So, your question was data and technology, is it?
Yeah.
Right. Perfect. So, I don't have an exact answer for this, but I'll try to, share my experiences, which kind of have these elements, which could probably answer the answer. Right. So, as far as the data, as far as the technology is concerned, right? So, again, so GoPro is a tool, is something which I use for me to kind of document my experiences, right? So and I feel like, be it whatever I'm doing, be it I'm doing kayaking, or I'm doing cycling, be it whatever, I just mount my camera on my chest, or on my head, or on my hand, and then I do whatever I want, right? So this way, the technology part, as well as, and not just the GoPro, right? So even the cameras, even the drone, right? So all of these different elements would help me tell better stories, right? This is as far as my personal line, personal way is concerned. Also, I am working with a tech startup, which is ShareChat. It's Facebook Bharat, right? So essentially, it's majorly tech and data driven. And the way how, like, again, when I look back in retrospect, right? So I've understood there are a lot of similarities between the way how I have chosen my paths, right? So starting with Jagriti Yatra, and then Naropa Fellowship in Ladakh, and then my present stint at ShareChat. Right. So all three different, three different parts of my life are focusing on the same thing, which is tier two, tier three of India, or essentially like this space, right? So here, what I've realized was, all the all the problem statements which you have here in the tier one, like in your daily life, is nowhere close to what you would be seeing in tier two, tier three. Which is why I guess these are also the major turning points of my life, starting with Yatra, and then Naropa Fellowship, and then my current gig, right? So I was in Mulki. It's a very tiny coastal village, which Sanskriti might obviously know, because you were there, right? So yeah, so I was there. I was there in a surfing school for almost all a month. Last year, like this last December, I believe, I was there for a month, and there, I what I've realized was, they were my target audience, like the people who were there, right? So whom I have been working for. So day in day out, I see a lot of dashboards. I see a lot of data to crunch to understand the user behavior in terms of data they're consuming. When I was there, I could literally come out with 2 to 3 different problem statements by the way people are using ShareChat. So ShareChat is pretty popular in tier 2, tier 3 crowd, and not tier 1, because it's aimed at them. So just like how like people in fact search a lot of stuff in ShareChat, like the way we do in Google, right? So that gives us a lot of insights on how they try to leverage upon the minimal resources they have got, right? So this way, like when I was traveling, like even though like unconsciously, I've seen so many things which would again like everything. So everything would dive into what I'm doing currently, right? So that way, both data and technology have been a major part in in things that I do on my day-to-day adventures.
Thank you. That I think that was very relevant. I know initially you mentioned that you won't be answering the question directly, but I think you did. I think you shared some very specific examples with us on how data and tech can be harnessed to learn more about people's behavior and growth. So thank you for that.
So
And
it's
Rahul.
always good to hear the wisdom of Surya, because he has traveled a lot, and he also come from the tech background. So, and like on my initial phase, I still remember when I was in Jagriti Yatra, I was not sure what to do, like how to do and all. I talked to Surya at that time, and I was also like, I had a knack out uh, in designing as well as in photography. At that time, I asked him, like, should I go for photography? Then he told me his perspective, and then I didn't do that. So connecting this to the data and technology is what I see when I am into the business right now. So there was like, till now, what I say, this is the fourth industrial revolution which is going on, right? After the second industrial revolution, the third and the fourth one which is going on, that is the this one is the information based, right? And the next one is the humanity based, information using technology for humanity. So technology plays a vital role today. If we have to sustain in any business, we have to use the data and the technology, right? When I say there is a gap between the sustainable businesses which we are creating and reaching the audience, so there is a gap of data, right? That we don't have the data of those people who we have to reach, or the marketing. So that is the technology, and when I see when I go into the coming into this tourism business, the main aim was like reaching to the people at the last mile village of the Himalayas or whatever place it is. So when I see those people, they are not still connected to the world, right? And now as the internet is, the geo revolution came, and now they are getting connected with the mainstream. So that is giving them opportunity. But now the issue is they don't know like how to use it. They have just bombarded with the internet, good internet plans, and everything is coming, but they don't know how to use it. So it's our responsibility as well as when it comes to data and technology. So it's like telling them, being a responsible tourism and the sustainable business perspective, I'm saying this, like, to teach them also like how to utilize that for the betterment of that society, right? When I see, like, when I'm in the city people, when we see, so in city the people are doing lot many freelance jobs and all those things. The people in the villages, they can also do, but we see in Uttarakhand, specifically in Uttarakhand, we see there is a lot of migration because they don't find the employment, right? So in this fifth industrial revolution, which we so currently we are working on this and we are promoting the fifth industrial revolution. So in this, we are promoting the use of technology for the betterment of the society in these areas, and using the technology as well as the data for for the increasing, you can't scale if you are not online right now. So today, like Artha Alai, on this when we were in this COVID time, we are helping the small businesses, homestays, to with their design needs, creating the website, bringing them online. And that has, like, we have seen the the Misho came last year, and it has given a boost to the small businesses, right? It has made a reach to the world, globally reach that has provided. So same way, technology can be used in this tourism sector, and that can boost all those people who are the small homestays and all those things. So it will play a vital role. If you are not online today, then the business won't sustain or won't scale up.
Thank you so much, Rahul. It's again very interesting. So I hear you when you say that, irrespective of what you're doing, you need to be online in today's world to scale. So I will ask you a direct follow-up question on that. So you talked about how in COVID you've been helping a lot of homestays digitize and get online. So this was also a question submitted by a lot of attendees while registering for the session. And I know you've talked a bit about, both of you and Surya have talked about your challenges in the last year, but to be more specific, how would you say COVID has derailed or helped your plans? And your thoughts on building resilience in the face of uncertainties.
COVID, COVID is like, COVID has, game changer in this business. So when it was COVID, like, I was just new to the business, and that was completely heartbreaking thing. And I had shared with you earlier also, like, people were tagging on a post like, congratulations to all those people who have uh, started following their passion in February 2020. So that was the people are mocking a lot, and in that you have to stay calm and you have to be focused. And I'm lucky, and I'm really privileged that I got support from the I had joined the JY, and like I have got the support from the JY community at that time. I talked to a lot many people, and they said, okay, but we all are facing the same thing. So that has given a confidence at that time. And after that, uh, when I did the HIAL fellowship, so there we were also discussing. Then we realized that the tourism business is, is perishable, and we have to have a contingency plan. So, like, waiting for that at that time, like in 2020, my mindset was, okay, when everything will start again, we all will be on the, ground zero. Like, all the big players as well as the small players, all will be in the ground zero. So we will grow together. So that was the optimism at that time. But when the COVID struck again in 2021, so I started, like, I had a knack of design since my school days. So I started like freelancing on this thing. And but I realized that there was a gap. These homestays and all those people, they don't know how to come online, how to promote there. They are working a lot. There are a lot many people who are working amazing in ground, if you will see, but they don't have time. We don't know what they are actually doing. So in a part, in Artha Ally, we are starting that. We are helping these people to come online to showcase their work. So we are using our skills in photography as well as videography as well as in designing to help them to come online, and as well as our the entire knowledge in the tech field. So utilizing it here and helping these owners and the people who are doing amazing work to uh, bring them online to the mainstream media. So that is helping them, and I think that is uh, a great thing to do, and helping these people like that. Yeah. So that has a thing that a new thing that came out of the COVID, and it's going good actually right now.
Never thought that anyone in this space would say it's going good. Actually, so thank you for sharing that. That's very interesting, right? So like you found a new gap in the industry, which is also helping, like which is like, and you attack that gap in a way which also helps other people. So I think that sounds absolutely brilliant. A personal question, actually. So how all these people that you've helped bring online, is there any way that like me and the attendees, we can follow them? Do you share them on your social media?
So currently, we are working with. There is a Himalaya rides in in Shimla. Right now, we are working with them. There is, and JY community has a strong, connection with village Jibi. I would say, because Jibi is something from where we have all started our journey. Like, somehow I don't know what's with that place. So, so yes, there is a cottage like. Roshan's Cottage. We are working with them. So they are not completely online, but yes, we are helping them to create pamphlets, because that's they are not having much budget right now. So in their fixed budget, what we can do, we are trying to do that, giving them the pamphlets for you know uh, for the COVID guidelines and all those things which they can place, and helping them like how the hospitality and all those things. So there are small things that has come up, because it has started 1.5 months only. So it will take time. We'll share definitely, like when we will have some of them completely online. So the process is ongoing, and it's difficult to tell them like, okay, what we are doing, because people can't visualize it, right, until or unless they see the actual product. So, and creating all those things, it takes time. So I see them, they're struggling with the data. Like, okay, you are asking for the data, what type of data we should give, kaise दें, and all those things. You are asking for the number, कौन सा number दें हम, ये वो. So that is interesting, and telling them and bringing them. So it's a really interesting process actually. So yes, we'll share definitely when it will be there.
That sounds fantastic. Thank you. Before moving on to Surya, I think Ashish had also sent in a video response to this question. So we hear from him first.
So, as we are badly hit by COVID, what I have learned after this sad incident of 1 year, that we should always build asset light models. Like all our properties are on rent, and we have a lot of fixed running cost. And we started our business after taking a lot of debt from market on interest. So I would recommend people, if you have passion and you are starting to build a business, please never ever take a debt from market, money from market. Maybe make partners, give equity to small equity to all your partners in the business. But one incident like COVID can hit you so hard that because of debt from market, your entire business model can collapse. So I would recommend that debt from market should only be the last option, and if you are very sure, you should take it. Otherwise, uh, resist it and work hard to slowly build up your business by giving very small ESOPs, small stakes to all the partners included in building your business. I would also uh, recommend that you should build a hobby or something which can pay you. Like after COVID, I had nowhere to go. So, out of interest, out of curiosity, I learned a lot about share trading. And touchwood, by God's grace, it has really helped me in this difficult COVID times to earn and make a decent income. So I would always recommend that if you can build a something, some hobby which can pay you in these difficult times, maybe web designing or anything related to it, writing blogs, anything. So please have a hobby which can pay you in these difficult times.
I think amazing. Brilliant answer. I would say it resonates quite a bit with what you also said, Rahul, to not have all your eggs in one basket and to be on the lookout for opportunities and just like to build resilience, like just to have a couple of opportunities instead of just one. So thank you, Ashish, for sending in your thoughts. And Surya, would you like to share your thoughts on building resilience during uncertainty?
Okay. Right. Right. So I mean, so for me, personally, right. So I feel COVID was much needed. Not at the intensity that it came out with, but but something of that kind of a speed breaker was needed for everyone, right? So for everyone, literally for the huge companies, for for us as individuals, for everyone, right? So I guess that that had kind changed the whole status quo of a lot many things, right? So talking in the context of the tourism, so it has a massive change in terms of the tourism as a whole, number one, and number two, in the context of India. So there are a lot of people who wouldn't want to explore our country itself in the first place and would look out for all the different countries out there, right? But I guess that is definitely going to change, and the concept of Airbnb is going to probably multiply to its maximum in the next upcoming years, in the next couple of years, right? And also there's an other concept of the social living, right, or the commune living, right? So even that is going to see a huge bump in the next few months, right? So probably once the whole vaccination thing is done, I guess people would be out and the way they travel would be completely different. But there are few elements which would never change. I guess number one being the concept of hostel itself, but at a different manner, right? So to kind of contextualize what I'm trying to say is Zostel is an hostel. Zostel X is a concept where they're trying to introduce social commune living, right? So I guess this Zostel X concept has a huge potential in terms of like, so essentially I'll tell you the very basic difference. Zostel X Zostel is a hostel, backpacking hostel, where all the millennials and the Gen Zs, all of these aged folks would come there and try to have a good time while sleeping in a bunk bed, and they wouldn't really consider good bed, their own private bathroom as a luxury. Like like though it's a luxury, they wouldn't. They're more inclined towards the experiences, right? So this concept is completely absent if you go for a homestay or a resort stay, be it whatever, right? So this social element is a game changer, right? So this is what Zostel X is trying to provide. So Zostel X would be more or less like a villa with four different bedrooms, right? Four different bedrooms with their own personal washroom. So it's more or less like a usual hotel, but it has a common space and the vibe of a hostel, right? So the vibe part is a major part which induces the social commune living or social living, or all these different concepts, right? So as far as the tourism is concerned, uh, yeah, as far as the tourism is concerned, the international travel is going to be very very minimal, at least in the next couple of years, right? And the domestic travel is going to kind of blow out of its bounds in the next couple of months. Yeah. And also one thing being the digital nomadism. So like one of my friend, a very good friend of mine who who's a nomad since past 4 years, and she used to proudly say I'm a digital nomad. And right now if you see, every second person is a digital nomad, right? So every person who has a remote job are traveling to different places and experiencing different things, and he is a digital nomad, right? So the definition of digital nomad is the person who does it, and half of our country is a digital nomad right now. So I guess there's a lot of shift in the overall nomadism terms as well, right? So there are the stay nomads, and there are all the different concepts, right? But digital nomad as a whole has also seen a brilliant uh, brilliant growth in the last couple of years, and again in the next upcoming probably decade, it's going to be the next big thing. It is already the next big thing, with so many resources coming available for all of us. But yeah, it is definitely going to be the next big thing in the travel space.
That's very interesting. I think my takeaway from what you both and Ashish and even Pulkit said is that like it's important to evolve with the times, and that like tourism, it won't die, but due to uncertainty it might change, and it's important to be on the lookout for the changes that are happening and be ready to like respond quickly and adapt quickly to it. So like you talked about Zostel X, I wasn't aware. It sounds brilliant. And also what you said about the boom in domestic tourism, and also like remote work changing the way that you travel. So it's all about how soon you can respond and sort of capitalize on these trends. So that's, thank you so much for sharing all of that, and also the true trends that you mentioned. So we will now take some audience questions. So first, there was a question for you, Rahul. Dhuman wanted to ask if you could share a bit more about how the HIAL fellowship helped you, and specifically, how did it help you in business?
So this is like a wonderful question. Like I would love to answer this. HIAL fellowship is basically it has helped a lot, I would say. It has changed the perspective, the entire perspective, like the way things are. And Sonam Wangchuk, we know he's an epitome of sustainability in this country, right? So learning directly from him and understanding his perspective on everything, that has changed a lot. And um, I feel that it was a sad part that it was a 3-month fellowship and you have to go to Ladakh. But unfortunately, due to COVID, we couldn't go to Ladakh and work over there. So, and the entire fellowship is not about studying; it's about more about you know a head, heart, and hand, they say. So a less about head and more about heart, and a lot about hand. So there is like hands-on training on everything. What we were doing, so entire 3 months, while we were doing the online classes also, we were doing different projects every day, reading the researches and all those things, trying whatever possible at our home, so that has not uh, it was not a, I won't say that it was a completely a business side of thing. They haven't taught us about the business, but they have taught about the sustainability, what actually the sustainability means. Because once you understand the sustainability, once you understand the finance, then you can learn the business from. There are a lot of tutorials in this, about the startup, building a startup and all those things. But the core values which are really needed in a business, that we have learned from there. And the biggest support is the Hyal support, which they usually offer, like whatever you need from them. So they are always standing. And that is one thing, like, once you are a part of such thing, so you get a confidence in the down phase also, like, that there is a big name standing behind you. And they are always available for any issues whatever we face. So they are always a one call away, right? So that is the thing. So Hyal has helped a lot, and it was after JY that was the Hyal thing that has helped a lot.
That's That sounds like a very cool experience, honestly. I see a few more questions in the audience. So, um, Pratikshit and Ishani have some questions. Do you feel free to unmute yourself and ask the questions directly? Otherwise, I can also read it off the chat. Do you want to go first,
Yeah,
Pratikshit?
yeah, I will go first, Sanskrit. Thank you. No, I was going to write this question. Sorry, I can't share my video because I'm in a dark room. But yeah, my question was, I think, I mean, what you guys are talking about is amazing. I think the sustainable tourism, something which is very great, and COVID has helped us to learn about it a lot. One question I had with sustainable tourism was that as a concept, it of course makes a lot of sense. But when you travel, you understand maybe even sustainable tourism is kind of an elite experience. You probably have to have maybe a minimalistic view, but even then you will have to spend good amount of money to probably have one small room with all things that you need and everything biodegradable and all, right? So, what is your perspective of sustainable tourism being for masses and basically across nations? I mean, because that concept is fine, but then how do you scale it? And just wanted to understand your thoughts.
So this is a pretty interesting question, actually, and this is one thing that all the sustainable tourism business struggle for, that, the scalability issue. And the issue is, like, in this competitive market where the people are taking 25 people and they are charging way less than what we are charging, and we have to, limit on a batch of around 10. We can't take more than 10 people because we are taking on the offbeat destination, or we have to promote the sustainability part also. So so the budget is something which is in the sustainable part. It's a elite experience, as well as it's an expensive experience too. But when we see on the scalability part, or we are talking about the, if you want to go into the masses, right? So one thing what you can do, like what we have figured out is, uh, when you see that Manali, Kasol, as well as Nainital, Masuri, whatever all these places are, they are Shimla, like they are heavily crowded. So what we can do, like we can take people to the offbeat destination, multiple offbeat destination, just distribute the tourism, right? That is one type of responsible tourism also, right? when you are not taking like 1 lakh people going to a same place rather than 1 lakh people going to 10,000 people are going to the different places, giving the boost to the community. That is also a responsible that also comes under a responsible tourism, because a lot of pressure is not getting into a single place, right? But we have to limit on the number of people that we can't do more than 15. That is the maximum limit which we have to stick, but we can have the more number of trips. So when the technology come into the play, right, when we have a good marketing, AdSense, and the Facebook ad, Google ads, all those things, we can reach to the good people who really want to experience, as well as and there are a lot many people I see who want to experience, and those who haven't experienced it, and once they experience, they want to do that type of tourism. I've seen a lot of reviews coming. Oh, we never thought that tourism could be like this, right? And we want to do this, and then they bring more friends next time. Like, okay, come. There's something else. Like you have to spend only 2 or 3 thousand more, right? So slowly and gradually, that we have to make sustainability a trend, and it's becoming slowly. And as it is a decade of sustainability, by the end of 2030, and hopefully due to COVID, the people are understanding this. So I hope that down the line, 5 to 6 years, we will see more such ventures coming up, and people are focusing more on sustainable tourism things.
Do you have any other questions, Pratikshit?
Yeah, I just had a follow-up question on the point that Rahul said. I was also just thinking from a traveler or a consumer point of view. Let's say if I'm traveling and anybody of us travel, are there some ways wherein probably we can have few tips around how can we travel in a sustainable manner, and maybe you can share it offline also, just in the interest of time. But I just wanted your quick thought around it. How can, as a consumer, as a traveler, we travel in a sustainable manner?
So as a traveler, I would say, like, being a traveler or a tourist, you are having a very big responsibility, right? You can bring the maximum impact when a tourist can bring a maximum impact in a place. Like what you are purchasing, what are your purchasing habit, what are your interests, like So all these things impact a lot. Let's say you go to a place and you are bringing back all your waste back to the cities, because if you're going, especially I would focus on the Himalayan part only. So you are bringing your waste, because there it won't biodegrade, right? It will take, the temperature is low, it will take 10x more time if you are throwing it there. So if you bring it back, there are companies like the Happy Turtle India, which are providing you know the sustainable kits, as well as there are a lot many companies which have came up to provide all those plastic free goodies and all those things, so which you can carry. As well as when you go to a place, when you purchase things, if you're purchasing, you're asking for the local food, then you are helping the community. The community people will think, okay, today when we go, we see in the entire Himalayan region only they are selling momos, right? Where is the food? Local food has gone, or they are selling pizzas and all those things. Why? The reason is that the outside people come and they ask for all these things. We go to Himachal, we don't find Sidhu in any place, right? That was the the main dish from the Himachal, right? Which is an international dish. Or whether you go to in Uttarakhand, you don't see the local grains or all those dals, sabji, and all those things. So when you ask about those, the people will start selling those things, right? So that is one of the things that will give them employment also, and that will promote their culture. And when that is a personal experience, on every trip we give Himachali cap, or local thing, anything like pattu Himachali cap to our tourists. And when the local, all those village people see, and they are like, they approach us and they say कि आप लोग तो भैया बाहर से आए हुए हो, आप लोग ये सब हमारा कल्चर फॉलो कर रहे हो और हमारे बच्चे भूल गए हैं, right? So they are seeing it, and then they will start following it, because in the start I have said that when we see, we try to copy all those things, because we see, as from those places, we always see the city people are superior than us. That is a mindset. And when you do such acts, and these are the act of kindness, and you are doing unknowingly, you are doing a great work to humanity, as well as the sustainability. So that is the thing. So understand your power as a tourist, and if you understand understand that we can bring a lot of impact in the coming years.
Thanks, Rahul. Great question also, because I wanted to ask something similar as well. And actually, Ishani also had a similar question for Surya. Ishani, do you want to go ahead and ask Surya about your question?
Sure. So this is a question to Surya from perspective of him living that life, but Rahul can also feel free to answer from a person who's observing people doing this. So when you work from different locations as a digital nomad, you're probably staying in some place where you don't have access to, what you would have at a home, like a kitchen and other things like that. You're probably having to buy a lot of stuff while living there. So how do you manage your footprint and your sustainability, both in terms of your personal health and well-being, as well as the well-being of the community and environment you're living in? I'm asking because this is one of the challenges I face a lot personally.
I guess, I mean, like my experience from Mulki could be, right fit into this question, because everywhere else everywhere else have been for a longer stay. Probably Udaipur, I was there for 1.5 month, right? So, but there it's all the mainstream food, which all of us are pretty used to, right? But what so like wherever I go and the kind of time I stay and spend there, like I try to have local food, right? I'll also make sure there is a kitchen, though I don't know cooking, like, but I experiment, right? So like wherever I am with what are the things which I have, I experiment, but most of the times experiments fail. So then I'll end up with having some very known dishes, right? But essentially in terms of food, like I try to eat as local as possible. Even when I was in Kerala, I was eating only Kerala specific food, though I miss the food, the uh, like especially Andhra food. Like I am from Andhra, and then I love the food here, though I'm a vegetarian, but I completely love the food here. So in case like I've come to my home after probably like a year, and one of the major reasons is for food, right? And so that way like I try to stick to the local cuisine as much as possible, Ishani, and also carry a bunch of spices with me whenever possible, right? So, and I try to cook with those spices.
So I want to add on this part of so the electricity just went off, so I can't open the. It's completely dark now. So like when we go when we talk about like how this is a big problem, when we are traveling, like how to manage our food or our habits, and there is a big problem, like when we go to the extreme temperature, there is a issue of sustainability as well as survival as well as sustainability, right? And when there is a issue of survival, then obviously you won't think about sustainability at that point of time. So uh that is actually an exception. So when we are traveling, so everything comes with, there are pros and cons. And when we talk about when we are traveling to places and we want to be a digital nomad, so we have to build our mind in that way, that we have to go to that place, we have to uh, live the people, the way the people are living over there, and what those people are eating. Obviously that is good. When you go to a homestay, right, you ask for the local food, that is quite healthy food over there, right? But I see that the people come and they are like, okay, we don't want to eat that, we don't want to do that, okay, give us a Maggie, give us the Italian pasta and all those things. So that will definitely when we see the carbon footprint of a pasta coming from Delhi and reaching to that area, that is a huge carbon footprint over there. But rather than a cereal which has been produced on their farm, uh, the green leafy vegetable. When you go to Himalayan region, there are a lot of green leafy vegetable. There are a lot of apple, and you can have a lot many dishes from apple. They have a chutney from apple. You can have in Uttarakhand. You go, there is a chutney of that bhagira ki chutney, that bhang ki chutney, what they call, and that all those things are, they are so good. and they are so healthy. Ask for the bajre ka atta ki roti, and you will be much healthier than eating all those things. So if you are like, your mindset is like that, you will be like fine eating all those things, then things will be fine. And the people, if you are staying in a homestay, these people are so good and they're so innocent. Whatever you will ask them, and you can teach them how to, you know uh, cook. If you teach them how to cook your dishes, they are quite happy, and they love it, all those things. So be in the community living, and that will help you a lot, and reducing your carbon footprint in that way.
Thank you, Surya and Rahul. Uh, Ravi also has a question. Ravi, would you like to unmute yourself and ask the question directly?
Hi, I had a question related to Bihar because in these recent times, a lot of effort has been done in the southern part of Bihar, like in Nalanda, Gaya, Rajgir, etc. Some of the region in Darbhanga, also Mithila region, like Madhubani painting has been promoted. So, do the panelists in their experience found some of the people who are working in these areas, like in Bihar, or do you have actually yourself taken interest in such initiatives, sustainable tourism initiatives that you can inform? Thank you.
So yeah, Ravi, that is an interesting question again. So I was lucky, like just before this COVID happened, the COVID lockdown started. I was there in Patna for almost 15 days, and for the first time I went to Bihar, like after the Jagriti, the Rajgir thing. So I realized that the image which the Bihar is having in the entire country is not really great. But when you experience the Bihari food and Bihari people, I really enjoyed the culture. That was a different culture. The sweet, the way they talk very sweetly and very So all those things, that is, when we, as a, like, currently we are working on that, and currently, like, we are not completely working on it, but as soon as that will, when we will scale up, we'll definitely see Bihar has a lot of hidden potential, and it has a, very strong history that has evolved our country. So that need to be bring it to the mainstream. And as the government is doing the development at that in the state of Bihar, so soon we will be like, lot many people will be interested, and it has a huge potential of, the Buddhist, as well as, that is the pilgrimage place. So that type of tourism is still there, but sustainable tourism, it's not yet over there, because there are a lot many issues, safety and all those things. And as the price is concerned, so that is, the entire business depend on the customer centric, whether the customer wants to go or not. So as we are trying to build a sustainability, a trend, we will try to implement, bringing these offbeat state, Odisha, Bihar, and all these places into the play.
Thank you for all of your questions. Does anyone else have any questions for the speakers? Even if Surya, Rahul, you have any questions for each other?
Yeah, sorry. I could ask that one question because it's interesting to hear.
Please go ahead.
So Surya, and maybe Rahul can also answer this, but I know that Surya keeps imagining these things, so it'll be nice to hear. For the next 5 years, what are your top destinations or experiences that are in your bucket list that you definitely want to complete?
Right. So in terms of again, like, I'm actually frankly not looking for a huge life in front of me because of the way how we as humans are progressing. But essentially, right, so in the very next couple of years, I'm looking at a PADI master diving course, right? So I want to get certified in the as a master diver, and also two, a skiing course. I I was able to go for Gulmarg last year, which got called off because of the COVID, right? So I'm also looking at the skiing course, and I'm also looking at moving countries, right? So I have a plan of moving to to Canada, or probably Singapore, to to kind of explore the places nearby, right? So what I've realized so far in probably 7 to 8 years of traveling, right, I have had much better and much intense experiences when I was there in that place for a longer time than just going in, marking my present and then moving, right? So that is something which I've realized very well, very well. And so like I'm looking at doing the being a stay mad, which means go to some place, stay there for some time. Some time is essentially probably 2 to 6 months or even more, right? So this is something which I'm looking forward to. And the very major kind of a thing which I'm looking forward to is a gap year. So probably a sabbatical in case my organization allows, which I'm pretty sure it's not going to, right? So but I feel this the year of gap, the concept of gap year is a huge concept for all the Westerners. But for us, it's an almost all non-existent as a concept. But I feel that is much needed. So since I haven't done earlier in my life, probably people usually does it right after their +2 in Western countries. But for us, since I haven't done it earlier, I feel this is the right time. This part of my 20s is my right time, which could probably frame my upcoming years better. So I'm looking at taking a gap year for now. And there is something called WOOF, which is worldwide organic. So like you basically, the concept is you go to some place, stay in an organic farm and volunteer there, right? So and there are n number of volunteer opportunities like this, right? So I'm looking at doing all this, picking up gigs on the road, and trying to experience a place as it is for a minimum of a month to probably a year or so, right? So like it's all on the cards. As soon as I kind of get an approval for sabbatical slash I choose to leave the job, then I'm out to countries this time. Yeah.
Rahul, do you have anything?
Surya has like amazing, the crazy bucket list he always has. So I'm
It
speaking.
does, yeah.
But yeah, my 4 to 5 years will be like experiencing the country deeply, like Surya has already experienced it. So I would be like experiencing more deeply the Himalayan region, as well as the Deccan Plateau, as well as southern part, and all the country first. Then I will move out. And so that word, the Surya, is like I'm just following the path of Surya, which is laying in front of me. So that will be the thing. So not much.
No, but that sounds fantastic. I think with these two inspiring bucket lists, one more domestic and one more global, we'll close the session with this, unless anyone has any last minute questions, or if you want to add something, Surya, Rahul.
I just have one more or less like an adding thought to what Rahul was saying. So Rahul has mentioned that I've already done it, the country part. But I feel, this is something which even a couple of my friends have pointed out. I've traveled, but there is no one establishing thought why I was traveling. I feel like I find freedom in that in the absence of thought. But whereas now when Rahul was traveling, he's traveling for a cause. Like he knows what he has to establish, and then he's trying to kind of get as much knowledge as possible, right? So this is one thing which I've observed very closely, even in my fellowship back in Ladakh. So until this, I don't know what I was working for. All the concepts which are being told in the classroom, I couldn't relate to them. But when I've kind of established okay, this is what I would be working on. So I'd be building employment opportunities for women in winter by making chocolate. So this is a concept which I have already established mind mein okay, ye karna hai. And whenever any kind of concept is being taught in the classroom, I could completely relate okay, for this problem statement, how do I take in this learning and put into use, right? So this part was missing when I was traveling, even now going forward. But I feel like I'm good with in those terms. But when Rahul is doing, he's doing for like a cause, or he for an establishment thought. I guess that is going to be much more intense and insightful than what I've done, I feel. Yeah.
Sure, that's
your
interesting.
experience is like, a very, very great experience. Like you always, you know, uh, the 5% you have already told, like the 5 resourceful persons, like one of you is you. Like it's always, if you need any help anytime in any part of the country, you can call Surya. Surya will be having at least one contact over there. So that is that you have attained after traveling so much. Yeah.
That's amazing. I can also vouch for that, Rahul. I think if I need any recommendations, Surya is the first person that I would also approach. So I can vouch for that as well. Thanks a lot, everyone, for joining. I think we'll close the session with this. If you have any additional questions for the speaker, please feel free to reach out to them. The contact details have been shared in the chat box, and they're also displayed on the screen right now. And the recording of the session will be uploaded on YouTube in case you want to go back and revisit any question. And the recording of all the past sessions is also there on the YouTube channel in case you want to check them out. The next session for Yatri Story is on the theme waste, sanitation and water management, and it is scheduled for August 15. So please do tune in. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we hope to see you on August 15. Thank you.